fresh prints. We've got a lot of snow across the river in through here. Got some tracks down there to the right. Looking pretty pristine to the left. Don't really see any tracks over that away. We're approaching a little part of the northern range. The power of that water coming through here, all of that was flood erosion. Today the Park Service is referring to that flood as a 500-year flood, just a very extreme and very rare event. And it was caused by two factors kind of coming together in perfect unison. The winter itself in kind of late 2021, early 2022 was very, very harsh and very prolonged. Wildlife does pretty well during flooding situations. They kind of sense it coming and feel it coming and move to higher ground. The animals that are most impacted in flooding situations are burrowing animals and animals dependent on rivers and streams like beaver. And that is really what they're called, an obstinacy, from that base word obstinate, which means very, very stubborn. Basically, these railroad crews could not get these very large herds of bison to move, and so they could shut down progress on the laying of tracks for sometimes 3 and 4 months at a time. And so instead of waiting, they just began to slaughter them, and they slaughtered them in very, very great numbers. And then while this was happening, the United States government was trying to persuade Native Americans to relocate onto designated reservation lands. And for the most part, there was great resistance to doing this. They did not want to leave their cultural and traditional hunting grounds. And most of the resistance was from that, wanting to continue to hunt. Most of what they were hunting was bison. And so the American government joined in with the railroad companies and began to slaughter bison also. They thought if they removed the bison, they would remove the resistance. And so some people recognized that bison seemed to be dangerously close to the brink of extinction. They talked to some folks in high places, members of Congress and so on and so forth. And the cavalrymen, the army men that were stationed out here in Yellowstone, were given orders to go out and do a formal bison count. So they mounted up on horseback and went all over the park for several weeks, and they could not locate more than 23 bison. That was in their report, 23. There could have been, and many historians think that there likely were, some more bison here and there that perhaps they didn't find and didn't make it into the count. But at any rate, it wasn't a lot, and bison were dangerously close to the brink of extinction. There were some other bison in other parts of America that had been rounded up by the 1900s, early 1900s, to be used for ranching purposes. There was the Charles Goodnight herd in Texas, and the Palo Allard herd up north here. But those animals were no longer wild and free. They were kind of fenced off and contained in barns and buildings and structures. And so Buffalo Ranch back there was constructed, and a breeding program began to save bison from extinction. By the time the year of 1952 had come around, the bison population had grown back up to about 1,000 members strong, and that was deemed to be a safe number, that bison were no longer at risk for extinction. And so fencing that had been kind of installed out here to our right to assist with this breeding program had been removed, and the Buffalo Ranch buildings had been repurposed. Bison finally got their spot in kind of their proper place in United States history as icons of the American West back in 2016 when President Obama signed the Bison Legacy Act. And that act was the creek. You may have seen an otter. I'm going to crack my window a little bit. Just can't seem to get this fog under control. Maybe if I turn the temperature down just a hair.
Look how beautiful that is.